Welcome, IQ Stories followers. If you're watching my channel for the first time, I share real-life stories and interesting topics. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to get exclusive content. Now let's dive into today's segment. Finding love isn't easy, especially when you find yourself competing with thousands of people for one person's attention. What can make you stand out from them? Those who send cliched emotional messages or those who send their pictures? These things are repetitive. Most of the messages were like this: I know you're hurt, I can see the pain in your eyes, but I can change all that and support you. Imagine, these messages weren't reaching a football player, actor, or singer, but a serial killer. Yes, a killer who committed the most heinous crimes in record time without any remorse. And when these messages reached him, they were a way to the next crime, a story that will feel like a movie, and the protagonist of this movie had fans from all over the world. These fans wished for his acquittal and believed wholeheartedly that he was a good person inside. What is this man's story, and why do some defend him? Follow the events from the beginning, and let me give you the details. First, I want to tell you that there are many characters in this story, and all of them are important. So try to remember the names with me. Our story begins today in the state of Florida on a Monday morning, which was supposed to be the start of a regular workday, but this day was completely different, especially for the main characters. The story starts with Mila being devastated, thinking her Dodge car was stolen. Stephanie is trying to reach her close friend Christine, but Christine isn't responding. Jason was at his job, exhausted, and was surprised by the police asking him about what happened yesterday. Finally, there was a person standing in a store asking for help from the store owner with thin feet, wearing pants, his whole body covered in blood and broken teeth. What is happening? All these characters are connected by one thing. They were all at a place called Buddha Bar the previous night. The most important question is, what happened there? Buddha Bar is a club located in Florida where many friends like to spend their weekends. On October 6, 2019, Mila decided to meet her friend Amy. Mila was the type who didn't like to carry a bag in her hand. She preferred to put all her belongings in her pockets. If her pockets weren't enough, she would put her things with someone who was with her. On that day, that person was Watto, who was 25 years old. Although he was 10 years younger than Mila, when Mila first met him, she felt he was someone she could rely on in her life. So she gave him her car keys, and they entered the club. A short while later, Amy arrived at the club and saw Mila's car in the parking lot, which was a gray Dodge and distinctive. So she knew Mila was inside the club. When Amy entered the club, she approached Mila and wanted to meet her boyfriend because Mila always talked about him. After greeting them, they sat down and enjoyed their time together. At the end of the day, Amy found herself in an awkward situation as they started arguing. Watto wanted Mila to go with him to his friend's house to continue the evening there, but Mila didn't want to go. One of the reasons Mila mentioned was that she didn't know this person well. Amy tried to intervene to calm things down, but Watto remained angry and left the club. After that, Mila heard her car start and move, realizing that Watto had taken her car and left them without a car in his anger. Amy said to Mila, "Calm down and relax today. You'll come home with me, sleep at my place, and we'll have a nice day. Tomorrow, everything will be resolved." On the other side of the club, there were two other girls, Stephanie and Christine. Like any friends, they decided to spend their night at this club and enjoy their time. A guy came over and asked to meet them, introducing himself as Junior. Junior was a nice guy, and he quickly got to know Stephanie and Christine. It was clear that he was interested in Christine. He took them and introduced them to his friend Jason, and they sat in the club and enjoyed their time until the club closed. Then Junior suggested to the girls, "How about we continue the evening at Jason's house?" Indeed, they all got into one car and went to Jason's house. At that time, Jason's mother was sitting in the living room waiting for him to return. It was clear that she was upset because Jason was in his early 20s, and his mother was very annoyed that he was coming home at 2 in the morning. And now, he didn't come back alone, but returned with his friends. He tried to get past the situation and took them to his room. After a short while, he came down and told them, "Let's go. This guy doesn't want us here," referring to Jason. At that moment, the girls realized something was wrong. They thought Jason and Junior were friends, but in reality, they didn't know each other. The first time they saw each other was at the club. The atmosphere started to get tense, so Stephanie decided to go back home, and Christine suggested to Junior that he stay at her place. Christine was actually 25 years old, worked at a cafe, and lived alone in her house with her cat, so she had no problem hosting Junior at her place. The three of them got into the car, and the girls were surprised that it was the same car Jason drove yesterday. Jason and Junior didn't know each other, so they didn't understand whose car it was, but no one spoke. Junior started the car, and the engine was very loud, but the car didn't move. He kept trying and trying until the car moved. The car had a manual transmission, and the truth was that Junior had never driven a manual car before and didn't know how to drive it. This car wasn't his, and this man wasn't named Junior, but Wade Wilson, the same man who left his girlfriend Mila at the club. He was now about to commit his first crime. When he took Mila's car from the club, he had Jason drive it. Now, he didn't know what to do. The solution was for them to split up and take a taxi. Stephanie went back home, and Christine took Wade Wilson to her place, not knowing who she was dealing with. That night passed, and the next morning, Mila woke up at her friend's house thinking about what happened yesterday. Her boyfriend had stolen her car, which was worth $80,000, and she thought about the 6 months she spent with this person and how they were the worst 6 months of her life. Looking back at the time they met, Wade Wilson was a charming person, handsome, and had a deceptive personality. He appeared to be a real man who valued women, but he was the tut, quite the opposite. Mila was 10 years older than him, but despite that, he made her feel like he was someone she could rely on and that he was truly a man. He loved her madly, or rather, he pretended to. In the first week of their acquaintance, Mila was beaten by Wade for very trivial reasons. Wade suffered from insane fits of anger, to the point where he would hit everyone around him, even if they had nothing to do with the matter, as if he were unconscious. Once, Mila was in the car, and he got angry at her because of a message he saw on her phone. It wasn't clear what the message was, but he started hitting her hard, to the point where she opened the car door and forced him to stop. When she tried to get out of the car, he pulled her so hard that her clothes tore. When she managed to escape from him, he got out and choked her in the street until she passed out, then put her back in the car. When she woke up, she found herself in the back seat, tied up, with a blindfold over her eyes. Wade took her to an abandoned place and said to her, "This was a lesson for you. I'm teaching you a lesson." After that, he took her home and started calming her down from what had happened, saying, "It's over now, let's start over." Imagine, after all this humiliation, he said to her, "It's over now, let's start a new page." We're not talking about ordinary anger here, but a dangerous level. After this incident, Mila went straight to the police and reported Wade. After the report, he was imprisoned for 3 months. After his release from prison, he went straight to get Mila. They went to a club called Beau de Bar. You might wonder how she went back to him after all this. In fact, over the 6 months, Mila had been subjected to more than what I have told you, and each time she forgave him and went back to him. But that day, she decided she didn't want to go back to him or see his face ever again. Mila took her phone and found calls and messages from a strange number. It was 8:45 in the morning. When she answered the strange number, she heard Wade talking to her as if nothing had happened yesterday. Mila said to him, "Don't talk too much. I want my car now. Where are you? I have work." Wade started getting angry and insulting her, but she intended to end the matter after getting her car and didn't want to see him again. They agreed to meet at her workplace. By the way, Mila is a business owner and has projects, and maybe that's why he targeted her, because she was older than him and had money. What happened was that Amy took Mila and they went to Mila's workplace. Upon arrival, Mila noticed that Wade had brought a black Nissan she had never seen before. Wade forced Mila to get into the car with him, but she refused and asked for her car keys. All Mila remembers from this situation is the amount of blood she lost when Wade started pulling her out of the window. Mila tried to hold on to anything to keep him away because she felt this was the end for her. Wade went into a rage and started hitting her, tearing her clothes and hair. In his madness, he got out of the car without stopping it, causing the car to move and injuring both Wade and Mila. Wade quickly tried to get back into the car and use the brakes, giving Mila a chance to escape. At this time, Amy was watching from a distance and called the police. Amy couldn't intervene because Wade was clearly insane. After the police call ended, Amy tried to help. Wade looked at her and said, "If you get out of your car and come closer, I'll kill you." Amy was scared for her life and returned to her car. The situation was terrifying, but I can imagine how he said that to her while she was scared. Wade was tall and heavily built, so Mila couldn't confront him. When she tried to escape, Wade caught up with her and choked her with all his strength. Pleading words and tears were of no use. Before the sound of police cars was heard, he hit her in the face, breaking her nose, and blood started pouring out. When Mila heard the police sirens, she managed to break free and ran to a nearby shop. When people saw her condition, they let her in and locked the door. Wade fled immediately. About 2 hours later, Mila called Wade and said, "How about we meet and talk about what happened?" Wade agreed immediately. They agreed to meet in a restaurant parking lot, which was a police plan to lure and arrest him. When Wade arrived, the officer said, "We won't arrest you. We just want to ask you some questions." Wade showed cooperation but took the first chance to escape in his car. The police were puzzled. Where would this madman go? They would catch him. That's what would happen. But it wasn't long before they received a call from a man named Joshua, a store owner. Joshua sounded nervous on the call and told the police that a friend had just come to him, covered in blood, with broken teeth, barefoot, and shirtless. This person asked for my help, saying he had killed someone. Joshua continued, "I told him I would call someone to help you, but now I am calling you. This is my call to the police." Joshua didn't know what was happening. His acquaintance with Wade was superficial. They weren't close friends. But once again, Wade went to someone he didn't know well and asked for help to escape the police. The police were shocked. He said he had killed someone. Now they wanted to arrest him for assaulting the girl, and now he had killed someone. Who did he kill? The police arrived, but as I told you, Wade escaped. He sensed and heard that Joshua was reporting him, and for the second time that day, Wade managed to escape from the police. But his first problem was easier than his second. Your first problem is that you assaulted a girl, and the police are chasing you for that. Now you assaulted a girl, escaped from the police, and killed someone. I don't know how this person thinks. The police were puzzled, but this time, Wade left them the car he was driving. This car wasn't Mila's. It was the black Nissan, and it wasn't registered in his name. Whose car is this? They had a bad feeling about this car. As soon as they approached it, they saw blood. After investigating this matter, Stevie received a call from the police saying they found your friend Christine's stolen car. Stevie was shocked because she was with Christine yesterday. Christine's car was parked in front of her house. At the same time, the police received information from Mila about a strange number that had been calling her, which later turned out to be Wade calling her from this strange number. It turned out that this number belonged to Christine. But after hearing the sound of police cars, he fled from the police and caused a disaster. Wade, after fleeing from the police, encountered a random woman walking down the street named Diane Royce. Diane was an employee and mother of 2 children, aged 43. Wade stopped her and asked for directions to a certain road. Diane stopped to give him directions. We don't know how he convinced her, but she got into the car with him. As soon as she closed the door, he immediately attacked her until she lost consciousness. He then got out of the car and threw her onto the road. At that moment, he noticed she was still breathing, so he got back into the car and started driving over her body back and forth, about 10 times exactly. He told his father, "I ran over her until she looked like spaghetti." The father was confused and couldn't understand why his son would kill someone. There was a random woman he saw, so he asked him, "Why did you kill her?" The worst part was that the father said his son was excited, as if he was explaining an achievement and was proud of it. But at the same time, he was asking him to help him just to get out of the city. Wade's father was silent for a few seconds, then said to him, "Okay, send me your location, and I'll send you a car. This might help you get out of the city." After a few minutes, a car arrived at the location he was at, followed by a third and fourth car, but they weren't his father's cars. They were police cars to arrest him. The police were already in contact with Wade's father, who said, "Indeed, I haven't known anything about my son for a long time." At that moment, Wade hadn't called yet, but when Wade called his father, his wife Melanie was beside him, talking on the call, and at the same time, she was sending the police information about Wade Wilson. The father was in an unenviable position. In the end, Wade's father was hesitant to inform the police, but at the same time, he was sure that if Wade wasn't caught, he would repeat this 1,000,000 times. At that moment, he thought about the girl who was killed, or the two girls. Maybe they had a mother or father. Maybe they had a husband. Here, he decided to do the right thing and hand his son over to the police. Wade did not resist the police and was determined to tell them everything on one condition only, which was to bring him a burger and fries. Believe it or not, the police brought him the meal he wanted. After he ate his meal and finished, he told them the same thing he told his father exactly. The police discovered that the phone found in Christine's car actually belonged to Diane, the girl he saw on the street. They had the same question. Why? He had one answer. He said, "It just came to my mind to kill them, and I killed them." Easy. He told the investigators, "Diane's fear of me made me kill her because simply I am the lion and she is the prey. I don't look it, but I am very strong. I don't mean to be rude, but I could take you two down right now if I wanted." Imagine someone saying this to the investigators. He is a disrespectful person. But threatening the investigators at that moment is strange. He told them, "By the way, I will repeat my crime normally." At one point, when he got tired of the many questions and hours of investigation, the investigator asked him a question, and he replied that, "This is not my job." The investigator said, "It's not your job that you killed two people?" He replied, "No, indifferently, it's not my job." Wade confessed to painful details. Wade confessed to painful details and was speaking with complete coldness. He told the investigators that he lost his phone at Buddha Bar, and when he wanted to leave Christine's apartment, he needed a phone, so he took hers. He tried to unlock her phone with her Face ID, opening her eyes several times while she was dead until he managed to unlock the phone. At that stage, the police were at Christine's house, and as soon as they saw a bunch of blankets wrapped between the kitchen and the bedroom, they realized this was Christine's body. Her body was battered, with her face and body covered in bruises and her eyes swollen. They also noticed her nails were broken, which is sad because it indicates that Christine felt the attack and resisted until her last breath. As for Diane, the police had difficulty finding her body because it was in a tree-lined road. Unfortunately, after finding her body, no one could identify her because she was almost level with the ground, having been run over 10 times. And if you think this is the worst thing, you definitely don't know anything about Wade Wilson's past. In 2018, a 24-year-old girl named Kelly Matthew met a guy named Steven Wilson. At first, he seemed like a very nice guy to the extent that she introduced him to her family and friends, and her family liked him a lot. He told her, "Kelly, I hate drugs, I have never used them in my life, and I am a person with principles." For 6 months, Kelly lived with Steven in one house, and from time to time, she found drugs in the house, but pretended to be surprised. After 6 months, Kelly discovered that her boyfriend Steven's real name was Wade Wilson, and that he was hiding a lot. He did not take their relationship seriously while she intended to marry him. Then the big shock came when Kelly discovered that Wade Wilson was married and had 2 children. Kelly was shocked by all this at once, and Wade denied that these were his children, and there was no information about their mother. But it was clear that Wade had other relationships, and she discovered his repeated betrayals. Kelly says that this person is manipulative and deceitful, and he lives this pattern. So one day, Kelly returned home and found a lot of stolen items, reported it to the police, but they did not care. This guy who seemed nice and gentle began to show his true personality, as Wade started to have sudden bursts of anger and violently abused Kelly. In February 2019, one day before Kelly's birthday and 8 months before the murders he committed, Wade came to her house and apologized for everything, saying he would enter a rehabilitation center. He tried to persuade her to reconcile, but Kelly had had enough of his lies, knowing that he would not go to rehab. An argument between them turned into a fight until Wade lost his temper, strangled Kelly, dragged her to the backseat of her car, and started biting her face to the point of causing her deep wounds. In more details that I cannot mention, Kelly was in a very bad state. After that, he placed things in her throat to prevent her from screaming, and her legs were broken, as the car door closed on her legs, and she was left in this condition for 3.5 hours. Quietly, Wade went and got a meal from McDonald's, and nobody noticed that he had a victim in his car. After that, he went to a drug dealer and bought drugs in exchange for Kelly's phone. After all this, he left her in the car in an unknown place and went out with another girl. Kelly faced all this alone, trying to escape by freeing her hands, and after suffering, she managed to free herself. Without her phone, she had to drive quickly home, only wearing torn clothes. At that moment, Kelly was only in torn clothes. After she escaped, she took pictures of her injuries, went to the police and reported Wade, and spent hours in the hospital receiving treatment. Yet strangely, she mentioned that the police didn't care. On the same day, Wade tried to turn the tables on Kelly, telling the police that she was stalking and warning his girlfriend about him. Then the police opened an investigation file against Kelly. The officer in charge of the case wrote that Kelly had done this to herself to involve Wade. Guys, Kelly had a bite mark on her face. How could she bite her face? Tell me how this happened. There are other details that are too awful to mention. It's illogical. Kelly shared her whole story on TikTok and mentioned how the story turned against her, suddenly saying that all the photos she submitted and the evidence had disappeared. Everything vanished, although she had given them to the police. According to her, Wade repeated the same thing with another girl and left her in the car in the parking lot, and she was in bad condition. The police were not handling this properly. Kelly says, "If the police had arrested Wade, since I reported, he wouldn't have killed the 2 girls he killed in October." Wade had a history, and since he was 18 years old, he would go to jail and come out for various reasons, like robbery, drug theft, and he was also dealing with them. If the police were a bit tired, they would imprison him for beating a girl. But that was it. He would spend a month and then come out. Finally, Wade was arrested and his trial began. His lawyers tried to defend him by arguing that he suffers from mental disorders like depression and bipolar disorder. Some reports mentioned that when Wade was young, he suffered from mental illnesses, and because he participated in many sports activities, he hit his head several times, leading to brain congestion. They stated that after this point, problems began. He started using drugs, which caused him trouble. When he reached 20, he had an accident while driving, hit a tree, leading to a concussion. Lawyers tried to prove that this was the reason for his crimes, but the CT scans did not show any brain deformities. His lawyers continued to cast doubts on these scans, saying they were inaccurate and that he needed an MRI. However, the prison examinations diagnosed Wade with various conditions, such as anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and antisocial personality. But in reality, many people suffer from these disorders but do not kill. Additionally, the prosecution claimed that he was conscious when he committed the crimes, and there was evidence that he attempted to escape from the police several times, trying to leave the city. They also stated that the damage in his brain may be due to prolonged drug use. In prison, Wade attempted to escape. Of course, the cell was designed against this, so he could not escape. The window was too far away and it was impossible to reach it. All the furniture, including the bed and chair inside the cell, was bolted to the floor, so it couldn't be used for any other purpose. However, he managed to dismantle the chair, causing damage to the windows. But the window was too small, insufficient for him to escape. His attempt failed, of course. Every time Wade talked about what happened, he changed his story. Once he said that Christine was alive when he left her, and another time he said that Diane asked him to drop her off at the bus station and that he did not kill anyone. Furthermore, when he entered prison, he had no tattoos on his face except those he received inside. This drew the attention of thousands on TikTok. Instead of demanding justice for all those he killed, people sympathized with him unbelievably. He had fan accounts, in addition to other accounts defending him. One of them said, "If he gets out of jail, I am ready to change my life." Another said, "Why don't you give us a chance at life?" Another said, "Poor man, you can see the pain in his eyes. Clearly, he had a rough childhood." The best comment I saw was from a very candid person. She said, "I didn't like what he did, but I like his appearance." That was blunt. She expressed what was inside her and did not suppress it. She spoke the truth to others. Because they admired his appearance so much, they denied what he did, saying, "No, impossible." They provided justifications. Strange people. Imagine the obsession and madness people went through to the point where they entered Kelly's TikTok and told her, "He is more beautiful than anyone else. By the way, you don't deserve him." Wade had a large number of fans to a degree that he received messages while in prison, including emails and paper letters, reaching 4,000 messages, all from female fans, in addition to messages that caught the police's attention. Girls sent him things like pictures. I just want to understand, what do you want to change in this crazy person? This is a crazy killer. How many chances did the girls give him? One last thing, imagine there are people trying to justify everything for him. Where did this theory come from? From Wade himself. In 2020, Wade told a news station that he was involved with dangerous gangs in organ trafficking, and they used him because he was handsome to manipulate girls. He said, "I tried to get out of it, and that's why they falsified these charges against me." He was talking about his family and children, saying he was innocent. This talk was directed at female admirers who took his words and began to defend him more and more. They say, "Look, guys, he's innocent and he has beautiful tattoos on his face. Why don't you release him from prison? No one can understand that." Let me just give you details on the tattoos. And these tattoos, by the way, worsened his situation. On the right, he has the TTG symbol, which means time to go, and the Joker smile symbol. On his neck is the number 14, which symbolizes racism against Black people. Additionally, there is also the symbol 88 for white supremacists, which represents a salute to Hitler. The worst part is that he carries two Nazi symbols, one under his eye and the other on his scalp, and they are very large. Of course, his lawyer requested the judge to cover up these tattoos with makeup during the trial. In short, all these tattoos were against him, and the judge agreed. However, Wade himself refused and decided to appear in court with these tattoos. In 2024, the final session of Wade's trial, who murdered two girls without any reason. The two girls lived alone in their apartment with their cat, and during the investigation, the cat was beside one of them and didn't want to leave her. Kristen's mother got sick after her daughter's death and left the city. She didn't even attend the trial. Their entire family lives changed, and things were never the same. Zane Romero was 11 when he lost his father and 14 when his mother was killed. The child was deprived of sleep. In the trial, Zane was 19 and bravely spoke about how his mother supported him in everything and looked forward to the school football match she was attending to cheer him on. Zane said, "I have been deprived of this moment forever, deprived of seeing her." Diane's fiancé cried in court when recalling the last message Diane sent him, stating that she was upset with him for not saying goodbye before going to work. Wade was cold-hearted, as if he was watching a silly movie with no meaning. On August 27th of this year, the 30-year-old was convicted of first-degree murder for two people, and his punishment was voted to be executed. After all he did, there are still people wishing they had one last chance to meet him, and they create videos for him on TikTok. Truly, we live in a strange world. We can say we have reached the end of today's segment. Thank you for immersing yourself in this tale today. I trust it captivated your imagination. Remember to join the channel for more captivating narratives, hit the notification bell to stay updated on fresh content, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for our next video, where a new thrilling story awaits. Until next time.